Flames roared through the third-floor window as Jake Martinez heard their screams. Two little girls trapped, their mother nowhere in sight. He didn't hesitate, climbing through burning glass to save them. What he didn't know, their mother was billionaire Victoria Mason, and this rescue would change all their lives forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The screams pierced through the thick black smoke as flames devoured the old apartment building on Maple Street. Jake Martinez didn't think twice before rushing toward the burning structure, his construction worker instincts kicking in as he heard children crying from the third floor. "Someone help. My babies are up there." A woman's voice echoed from the crowd, but Jake was already climbing the fire escape, his calloused hands gripping the hot metal despite the pain. The smoke was choking him as he reached the third-floor window. Inside, two small figures huddled together in the corner, twin girls maybe 4 years old, coughing and crying as flames blocked their path to the door. "It's okay," Jake shouted, smashing through the window with his bare fist. Glass cut his arms, but adrenaline drove him forward. "I'm here to help." The first little girl had dark curls and wide brown eyes filled with terror. Her sister looked identical except for a small birthmark on her cheek. Both were wearing expensive-looking pajamas that seemed out of place in this rundown building. "We can't find Mama," the first girl sobbed. "She went to get help," Jake said gently, scooping both children into his arms. "But we need to go now." The journey down was treacherous. The fire escape was buckling under the heat, and smoke made it impossible to see. Jake held the twins tight against his chest, whispering reassurances as they descended through the nightmare. "What are your names?" he asked, trying to keep them calm. "I'm Lily," said the girl with the birthmark. "I'm Rose," whispered her sister. "Pretty names for pretty girls," Jake managed to say despite his burning lungs. Almost there. They reached the ground just as the fire department arrived. Paramedics rushed forward to check the children while Jake collapsed on the sidewalk, coughing up smoke and checking his bleeding hands. "Sir, you're a hero," one of the firefighters said. Another minute and those kids would have been gone. Jake looked around frantically. "Where's their mother?" "They said she went for help." The crowd of onlookers exchanged worried glances. Nobody had seen a woman leave the building before the fire started. "Mama?" Lily suddenly screamed, pointing at a figure running through the crowd. A woman in her late 20s burst through the group of people, her face streaked with tears and soot. She was beautiful despite her distress, long auburn hair, elegant features, and clothes that clearly cost more than Jake made in a month. But none of that mattered as she fell to her knees and pulled her daughters into her arms. "Lily." "Rose." "Oh God, I thought I lost you," she sobbed, covering their faces with kisses. "The nice man saved us, Mama," Rose said, pointing at Jake. The woman looked up at Jake with green eyes full of gratitude and something else, a depth of emotion that took his breath away. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved their lives. You saved everything that matters to me." Jake felt his cheeks burn, and not from the smoke. Anyone would have done the same. "No," she said firmly, standing up with the twins still clinging to her. "Not everyone would risk their life for strangers. I'm Victoria. Victoria Mason." "Jake Martinez," he replied, then paused. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Mama, can we go home now?" Lily asked. "I don't like it here." Victoria's face clouded with worry. "Sweetheart, our home, it's gone. Everything burned." Jake watched this elegant woman try to explain homelessness to her children, and his heart broke. He'd been a single dad himself until his son grew up and moved away. He knew that lost, desperate feeling. "You need somewhere to stay tonight?" he said impulsively. "I have a spare room. It's not fancy, but it's safe and clean." Victoria stared at him in shock. "I couldn't impose." "You're not imposing. Those little girls need stability right now, and hotels aren't great for kids." The twins looked up at their mother with hopeful eyes. "Please, Mama?" Rose asked. "The nice man seems good." Victoria studied Jake's face, his honest brown eyes, the gentle way he spoke to her daughters, the cuts on his hands from saving them. Something in her chest loosened for the first time in years. "Okay," she said quietly. "Just for tonight. But I insist on paying you." "No payment needed," Jake said firmly. "Just help me clean up those cuts when we get home." Jake's apartment was small but warm. The living room had a comfortable couch, a TV, and walls covered with pictures of a young man in military uniform. His son David, who was serving overseas. "Is that your boy?" Victoria asked, noticing the photos. "Yeah. He's in Afghanistan right now. Due back in 6 months." Jake's voice was thick with pride and worry. The twins explored carefully, their natural curiosity returning as they felt safe. Victoria helped Jake bandage his injured hands, her fingers gentle but efficient. "You're good at this," Jake observed. "I used to be a nurse," Victoria said softly. Before what?" She hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Before I inherited more money than anyone should ever have." Jake laughed, thinking she was joking. "Right. And I'm secretly a millionaire construction worker." Victoria's smile was sad. "I'm serious, Jake. My grandfather left me his entire fortune when I was 25. It's been both a blessing and a curse." Something in her tone made Jake look at her more carefully. The expensive clothes, the way she carried herself, the twins' clearly costly pajamas. "Victoria Mason," he said slowly. "Are you? Victoria Mason? As in Mason Industries? The Victoria Mason who's on magazine covers?" Victoria nodded reluctantly. "That's me. Though I try to avoid the spotlight as much as possible." Jake sat down heavily on his couch. Victoria Mason was one of the richest women in the country, worth billions. And she was sitting in his tiny apartment, letting him bandage her hands. "Why were you living in that building?" he asked, confused. "I wasn't living there," Victoria explained. "I was visiting Mrs. Chin, an elderly woman who used to work for my family. She's been like a grandmother to the twins. I was there when the fire started and I ran down to call 911. When I came back..." She shuddered. "I thought I'd lost them." "But you're safe now," Jake said gently. "All of you." Over the next few days, Victoria and the twins stayed with Jake while insurance companies and lawyers sorted out the aftermath of the fire. Victoria insisted on staying in Jake's spare room rather than a hotel, claiming the girls needed stability. The truth was, Victoria had never felt more at peace than in Jake's simple home. For the first time in years, she could just be herself. Not the billionaire heiress, not the business mogul, just a mother and a woman. Jake was unlike anyone she'd ever met. He treated her daughters like they were precious gifts, reading them bedtime stories and teaching them to make pancakes. He treated Victoria herself with respect but not awe, kindness but not greed. He seemed genuinely uninterested in her money. "Why aren't you married?" Victoria asked him one evening after the twins were asleep. Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Was married. Sarah died of cancer when David was 12. Haven't found anyone since who could love us both, me and my son." "I'm sorry. What about you? The girl's father?" Victoria's face hardened. "He left when he found out I was pregnant. Said twins would ruin his modeling career." She laughed bitterly. "I was young and stupid. I thought he loved me, but he only loved my money." "His loss," Jake said simply. "Those girls are amazing." "They like you," Victoria observed. "They've never taken to anyone this quickly." "I like them too. And their mother." The words hung in the air between them. Victoria felt her heart skip, but years of betrayal made her cautious. "Jake, you know who I am. What I'm worth." "How do I know? That I'm not after your money?" Jake interrupted gently. "Victoria, I was ready to die to save your daughters before I knew you had a dime. Does that answer your question?" It did. But Victoria had learned to be careful with her heart. Over the following weeks, Jake and Victoria grew closer. He showed her parts of the city she'd never seen. Neighborhood diners, local parks, places where real people lived real lives. She showed him a world of art galleries and fine restaurants, but more importantly, she showed him her true self, the woman behind the wealth. The twins flourished under Jake's attention. He taught them to ride bikes, helped with their homework, and tucked them in every night with silly voices and made-up stories. They started calling him Uncle Jake, and the title made his heart swell. "Mama," Lily said one morning over breakfast, "can Uncle Jake be our daddy?" Victoria choked on her coffee while Jake turned bright red. "Sweetheart, it's not that simple," Victoria began. "Why not?" Rose asked. "He loves us and we love him, and you smile all the time now." From the mouths of babes. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Victoria and Jake sat on his small balcony looking at the city lights. "They're not wrong, you know," Victoria said quietly. "About what?" "I do smile all the time now. For the first time in years, I'm genuinely happy." Jake took her hand. "So am I." "But Victoria, your world and mine, they're so different." "Are they?" she asked. "You have a good heart, strong values, and you love my children. You work hard and treat people with respect. Those are the things that matter to me. But the money? The money has only ever brought me loneliness and fake friends," Victoria said firmly. "You're the first man who's ever looked at me and seen just Victoria, not Victoria the billionaire." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "I love you," he said finally. I love you and those incredible little girls. But I need you to know, I can't be your kept man. I need to work, to contribute, to feel like I'm earning my place in your life. Victoria smiled. I've been thinking about that. I need someone to oversee the charitable foundation I want to start. Someone with integrity, someone who understands what working families need. Someone who saved 2 little girls without thinking about rewards. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership. In business and in life if you'll have us. Jake's answer was a kiss that tasted like forever. 6 months later, Jake's son David returned from deployment to find his father engaged to one of the richest women in America and about to become stepfather to twin 4-year-olds. Dad, David said, watching Jake push the twins on swings while Victoria laughed nearby, you realize she could buy and sell our entire neighborhood, right? Yeah, Jake replied, catching Lily as she jumped off the swing. But she'd rather live in it. That's how I know she's the one. The wedding was small and perfect, held in the community center where Jake and Victoria now ran their foundation. The twins were flower girls, David was best man, and Mrs. Chin, who had survived the fire and recovered fully, gave Victoria away. You saved us that night, Victoria whispered to Jake during their first dance. We saved each other, Jake replied. 5 years later, Jake and Victoria's foundation had built affordable housing for hundreds of families, funded scholarships for thousands of children, and created job training programs across the city. Jake had found his calling in helping others, while Victoria had found her peace in a love that had nothing to do with her bank account. The twins, now 9, were thriving. They excelled in school, played soccer, and still climbed into bed with Jake and Victoria during thunderstorms. David visited often with his new wife, and the house was always full of laughter and love. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked Victoria one evening as they watched the twins help David's wife bake cookies. Giving up the glamorous life for all this chaos? Victoria looked around at their busy, noisy, perfectly imperfect family. Jake, I spent 30 years looking for true love in all the wrong places. You found me in a burning building and showed me that real wealth isn't about money, it's about having people who would walk through fire for you. Literally in our case, Jake grinned. Literally, Victoria agreed, kissing him softly. You saved my daughters that night, but more than that, you saved me from a life without real love. The fire had taken their old lives and given them something infinitely better. A family built on love, trust, and the understanding that the most precious things in life can't be bought with any amount of money. And every year on the anniversary of the fire, they returned to Maple Street, where a new playground now stood where the old building had been. They'd watch their daughters play and remember that sometimes the worst disasters lead to the most beautiful new beginnings. Jake Martinez, the construction worker who risked everything for 2 scared little girls, had found himself a father, a husband, and a purpose he never knew he was looking for. Victoria Mason, the billionaire who thought money had ruined her chance at real love, had discovered that the right man would love her just as much if she had nothing at all. Together they had built something more valuable than any fortune, a family that proved love really could conquer all.